I'm going to be discussing everything I could dig up about a specific doctor who seems to be claiming that viruses don't work the way everybody knows they do, and seems to be doing this mostly in response to how popular the subject matter is. But here we go. Below this video, you will find a complete history of this specific person we're talking about, from a high school graduate all the way up to the New York State medical license that is supposed to expire this year. YouTuber in 2017, 2016 self-employed consultant, 2015 was granted a request for release from probation from Ohio. Before that, to 2010, SUNY Upstate Medical University Assistant Professor of Psychiatry. 2012, the Ohio State Medical Board Consent Agreement Probation, Ohio, under a license there. And when I look it up, it's not a medical license for 2012. Also, 2012, LLC CEO, founder for Zinnia Safety Systems. It's not showing up under medical disciplinary actions. What would that be? Ohio Board imposes probationary terms through consent agreements with those alleged to have committed a violation. This specifies the probationary terms to remain in place for a minimum period of years. 2009-2010, New York State Upstate Medical University Forensic Psychiatric Residency Program. New York State medical license was granted in 2009. It doesn't list the licensing and what type from Ohio. Duke University Psychiatry Residency Program, 2009. That's when he got it. 2007, started a Facebook page. He became a YouTuber in 2017. As far as I know. MIT Bachelor of Science, Molecular Biology. Very useful. MIT, 1995. He's a little bit younger than me. Not accepting Medicare, Medicaid, or new patients, currently, according to the only place I could find this. Affiliated with Upstate University Hospital, has an NPI number. The sublisting that he's under, the actual qualification he's under the legal licensing he has and certifications, are all under psychiatry. But the taxonomy that it's put under is allopathic and osteopathic physician, subspecialty of psychology and neurology, psychiatry / forensic psychiatry. Now, everything can have a subspecialty, but this is what he is supposed to be doing. A subspecialty with psychiatric focus on interrelationships with civil, criminal, and administrative law. Evaluation of specialized treatment of individuals involved in the legal system, incarceration in jails, prisons, and psych wards. Covered activities according to the listing: ADHD and ADD, antisocial personality disorder, homicidal ideation, non-dependent amphetamine or related act abuse, non-dependent drug and alcohol abuse, personality disorders, psychotherapy, psychology therapy, biofeedback, tobacco and tobacco use disorders, and how to create tobacco use cessation. With the exception of a more than cursory medical education, this person's primary existence is to study abnormal psychology for criminals. Publication: suicidal ideation instead of homicidal ideation among inmate patients in state prisons. Prevalence, reluctance to report, and treatment preferences. Next publication: survey of forensic mental health experts on pro se competence after Indiana versus Edwards decision, a legal decision. This is a lawyer psychiatrist, would probably feel very home at the Church of Scientology, I'm sure. So who is he studying now, and as his New York State medical license goes away? having spent enough time to have actual reviews posted that say he's not useful or a poor source for medical help, posted years ago, not having anything to do with anything currently. Claims to have discovered psychiatric drug studies were flawed and had no appreciable possible effect on patients in comparison with the placebos, but stayed a psychiatrist anyway. This led him to conclude that most doctors can just be considered prescribers of drugs. That's a bit odd for somebody to say who's spent so much time learning medicine so that you could say he's a medical doctor rather than only a psychiatrist, or in this case, a prison psychiatrist. But considering other doctors to just be people who prescribe pills. This doctor is certified in forensic psychiatry. Now, the way that would sound is, to me, being a forensic recovery data recovery guy, data forensics, and literally diagnosing computer viruses. That's my primary subject I went into. When I hear, forensics, I don't assume it's referring to literally the criminal end of it, but I have actually done some of that to be able to figure out the pathways done by criminals. Same thing a virus. I treat criminals like viruses. Anyway, it explains his findings on viruses and their transmission as this. And this is the only citation I could find that's in writing anywhere. I'm sure that there's more of it, but I can't find him saying anything anywhere other than in YouTube videos and some interviews before a certain date, specifically the YouTube era for him. Let's continue. Tissues and fluids from a sick person inserted into another person's body doesn't cause transmission of disease to occur. Okay, that's the only thing I can find him talking about it. And then he's featured in videos saying viruses can't be infectious. He seems to be a psychiatrist telling a group of people that desperately want a medical doctor, even though he's primarily a psychiatrist studying abnormal psychology in murderers and deviants. He goes on YouTube videos and tells people who want to believe that viruses and diseases aren't real because they're anti-vaxxers or whatever. He goes on these shows and says stuff they want to hear. Someone asked me to look into him. Someone asked me to consider what he had to say concerning, apparently someone saying, this guy has got something to say about coronavirus. His specialty isn't infectious diseases. He has a general practitioner's medical licensing function, but again, the subcategory it's put under, again, is allopathic, osteopathic physician and subspecialty, psychiatry, neurology, psychiatry, forensic psychiatry. He's a psychologist only. That's the only thing he's listed as. He may have a medical degree. I agree, he probably does. But, and they're basing that on him going only through the Medical University of South Carolina of Medicine as a medical doctor, achieving that in 2004. The New York State medical license number refers to that exclusively. And before that, he had a Bachelor of Science in Molecular Biology. So he can't claim that he doesn't understand how bodies respond at least to chemicals, and that's not a form of ignorance that should be tolerated by a medical board. But then again, his New York State medical license is dying this year. Apparently, I didn't even know they could be done, but they do have timings on them. They usually a medical license is for life, but that state, at least for him and for a lot of other people, has a time limit to it. And there's this rather unusual thing of 2012 to 2015, him having some sort of Ohio State Medical Board occurrence, a little niche there, and again, that's only done when there's a consent agreement for probation. That's only done if someone's alleged to have committed a violation, and they're put under probation rather than having anything else done. They're just given probation, slap on the wrist. So let's review. There's a person who is trained in sussing out and evaluating antisocial personalities, homicides, personality disorders, mental problems in people, and dealing with people who would be, locked in a psych ward or be going crazy in a prison. That's his primary, that's the basis for it. And he's a suicidal ideation publication, and forensic mental health experts per se, competence, blah, 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 blah. All he discussed is the legal matter of how to be a psychiatrist after a particular court decision limiting or affecting his job. And people stuck on drug abuse and fantasizing about suicide and murder. And this is a person who's telling everybody, don't believe every other doctor, because they're all just people who just give you pills and they don't have any medical knowledge. But him, being an MD on paper and real, and primarily involved in messing with people's heads and fixing them, is being interviewed on YouTube, saying things that would possibly, especially in the current environment, result in him losing a medical license, but then again, it's going to expire this year. The specific date is at one of the links below. And he came to the conclusion that diseases don't do what we've all been told by a simple example of tissues or fluids, direct infection. Not viruses through the air, but direct infection from tissue transplant here, or fluid transfer like blood, don't cause illness in some cases. And also that he also noticed that there's a placebo effect that's tested for in medicines for when you're testing them. And obviously many things go through and fail because they're crap medical products. The ones that have that problem where they fail and don't have a positive effect and do no better than a placebo are not given medical licensing. In fact, what he's talking about here would basically be homeopathy. I don't think he wants to work on prisoners anymore. I think he wants to go for a better source for experimentation. But I don't know. So, I was going to title the video, This Doctor's Findings on Viruses and Their Transmission, because that's what it's going to base it on, but he didn't have a paper on that. He just had some statements here and there, and apparently a bunch of YouTube videos have been posted with him in it, talking about this. And people keep acting like he's fighting the power. And forensic psychiatrist, that might mean the same thing I do when I do it. Trying to analyze how viruses propagate. I don't think he's worried about the biological ones. I think he's worried about mimetic progression and mimetic transfer. Dr. Andrew Russell Kaufman. Links below in the description. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.